Welcome to the Winners and Losers Show. Hello, everybody. My name is Hank Thompson. I'm the host of the show. I'm going to be the host of the show until I come up with a new opening bit. Hey, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. We're back again. We're back again. This time it's different. Wink. You'll notice if you're watching on YouTube that I'm on camera. I'm on video now. I'm doing a video. I've decided to step into the ring to put on my gladiator helmet and become a true guy on fucking YouTube and online. And I'm just leaning into it. I've always been afraid, I don't know, not afraid in other places, but just weirded out by the camera. I actually like cameras. I'm good at talking to cameras. You can tell I'm just excellent at looking right at it and not looking away from it. But I don't. Yeah, the camera always just was an element I avoided on my own stuff until like the last few months. So we're still doing this as audio, of course. It's going to be released on Libsyn and the other audio only sources. Been a while. I think I did a podcast way back in January. The successful formula for a show where you do a podcast every 3 months and then you apologize for being gone and then you come back and you say I'm never going to be gone again, and then that happens every 3 months. We're testing that theory. We're going to see if that works. It won't. So some changes around here. Winners and Losers Show is I've been actually very busy. This hasn't been a flame out of the usual kind. It's been more of a kind of like I'm hoping. I feel like I've been wandering around a map, occasionally straying into various encampments and being like, oh, there's people here. And then they chase me off. And then I find like some bears, and bears are talking to each other, making honey, having a family. And then I'm like, oh, there's bears here. And then they eventually chase me off. And I've had a few different, what the fuck am I, crossing topography, getting lost, lots of isolation, trying to do it on my own, trying to do this and that. And but finally, I think I'm tuning into something that is going to work in terms of sustainability and maybe lead to never having to have a real job. Even though this kind of job, if this does work, means basically you never stop working. So it hasn't been the kind of depression flame out. There's the first mention of it that has happened in the past. I've actually been super busy making websites and stuff. As you can see on screen, there's the website I made for the podcast. It's actually not, it's only a single page. It doesn't really do updates and stuff. I designed it to move around a little bit. If you watch it, check out these torches. The torches light up. That's kind of fun. And of course, the best detail is that there's a guy in the middle, and that's terrible for audio, but you can go check it out. So yeah, I created a bunch of stuff and a bunch of stories and shit, and so you can kind of see some history or some information and stuff. It's going to change over time. I made 4 websites. We're not going to look at them all right now, but I've been kind of finally realized, not that this shouldn't have been obvious, that I have to take this stuff seriously. Not that everything seems serious and not serious all at the same time. That's so weird. But I've been a comedian forever, or at least it feels like that, and I want to be one who makes their life and their living off of their work. Not to say stand up per se, although I'd love to get back to stand up eventually. I'm certainly never going to fucking go do it through the open mics and climb up out of the bottom like that. If I do end up back on stage, it'll be through some other, like your status is raised via something else, and then you have access to being on stage for audiences. Sometimes podcasts do live tapings. Sometimes there's other opportunities that come along. But it's a status, like you got to have a name, you got to have a known thing. If you have an audience, that's how that would work. That's not even necessarily the plan. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, so it's like either do it or don't do it. And that's, of course, a familiar story, but now I'm doing face cam stuff, recording it. I got a whole different recording setup here. And if you've been paying attention, which I don't expect everybody to, but I've also been streaming a bunch. I've been on Twitch a whole bunch in the last few weeks, doing a Valheim playthrough. That's a video game. Kind of getting back to my Suck Professor roots with that one, where it's a really great game. If you like Minecraft, it's like it's a Viking game where you run around this amazing land and you chop trees down and you build houses and you kill locals, and gives you a lot to talk about. And I kind of just play the game, but I sort of just ramble a bit too. I don't talk the entire time, although it's probably 70 to 90% of the time. And I talk about, it's sort of like podcasting. I mean, that's one of the ways I've been kind of getting used to being on camera, is doing this video game stuff. I stream it on Twitch, and then I edit it and upload it to Suck Professor. So there's links in the description and whatever if you want to go check it out. YouTube.com/Suck Professor. There's 70 episodes up or something like that, and each one is around an hour. So I've been doing a lot. Yeah, unlike a lot of video game players who make shit for the internet, I will launch into crazed socialist ramblings. So that's probably a bad idea in terms of like reaching the entire audience. Like if the generalized advice would be to don't offend anybody, don't say anything that people might find offensive. We need to sell as much dish soap as possible. Like if Palmolive soap had like seize the means of production on their label, that might. Although, to be frank, most people would have no idea what that phrase even means. And there's even people who think they know what it means would probably argue about it, including me. Yeah. So we're, let's see. So that's something I've been doing, shaking the rust off and having a lot of fun with it. I think like one of the earlier episodes, I did like a 40-minute Sam Harris impression. So it's not your typical video game playthrough. But it's also a great game. If you're not a gamer or something, or watching gamers or whatever the fuck, it's a good game. It's a fun game. It's just Viking, and you make boats, and it fucking takes forever to drive around on your boat. That's okay. It's got nice water, good water quality. So the other thing I started doing is really this is kind of the core of my efforts lately. I guess this goes hand in hand. First is I've gotten off Twitter. I've been not posting shit on Twitter. I've been posting links to Twitch on Twitter primarily. Really, that's it. But I've stayed off Twitter. I've been on Twitter for maybe 2 hours in the last 2 months, which is incredible considering I used to be on there feeding. It feeds on me while I feed on it, and absorbing, doom scrolling through it, and just accomplishing absolutely nothing except getting myself worked up and upset in ways that I can detect and ways that I can't. And we're coming off the end of this pandemic. Unemployment is not coming through for me anymore for some reason. I was supposed to get the last couple rounds of it, and there's nothing there. So this is that's a driving factor. I mean, at some point here, I'm going to need to go get a job or something. So God damn, it'd be nice if I could make this work somehow. So to that end, I've been working on my woodworking thing, and I'm actually launching a woodworking business. I'm registered. I've ordered things printed, and they're shipping me the printed cards that I'm going to include in packages. And I've been making Bum Rush Industries. Actually, that's a website that I made here. Check this out. Look at there, bumrushindustries.com. This one I will be updating. It's costing me like fucking $30 to $40 a month. I'm using Webflow, which is this really great source or online. What is the right word? Platform. But it has a browser-based designer that's really nice. I mean, I'm good with After Effects and Premiere Pro and Photoshop, so if you don't, that background probably meant my learning curve was a little lower for Webflow. But if you're ever thinking about making websites, man, it's a nice platform. It's a company that's been growing really quickly. They've got amazing tutorials. If you're lost, the tutorials for Webflow are fantastic. Honestly, they're like, as a video editor, I would aspire to make as good videos as they make, and they're funny, legit, and efficient, unlike me. So check it out. It moves around. It's kind of fun. Posting up some of the videos I've been working on, and these videos are going to be coming out more and more. So yeah, there's a whole little section there to read about me and shit, and about the store that I'm starting. So I'm going to be selling stuff on Etsy. And my first product, I'm going to show the camera here, are candle holders. I've been making these things. Anybody watching the stream has been seeing me here. Like, check all these out. I got a box of candle holders here. Bunch. I just take scrap wood. I'm eventually going to be making shit stools. This one's kind of nice and pretty. I like that one. A whole bunch of them in there. yeah, so I got just a crap ton. I got a lot more of these boxes built, and I'm just with staying off Twitter. This one, check this one out. I think this one needs wax still. This one's got some nice knots in it, and it's also flippable. You can flip them over. Some of them are two-sided. I've been in this space of life of like move to LA to work for the Young Turks, to work for, try to fight for the progressive movement, etc. Try to develop a comedy career too, and maybe become a comedy writer. This kind of standard boilerplate dreams a person has when they load up their Subaru and drive across the country. And it's just been a lot of shit and pain. And not to say I didn't cause some of it myself. I'm not suggesting this is all just I'm this powerless person with no agency in the situation. But and then you follow politics so closely, and this is sort of what connects it all to Twitter. And I'm just like feeding on this Twitter thing, and I'm constantly just feeling like I need to pay attention. I need to track the news. I need to stay up to date. Well, meanwhile, I'm neglecting my future. Meanwhile, I'm not doing the podcast. I'm not developing this woodworking thing. And so that's why I'm off Twitter, and I'm focusing, and I'm doing websites, and we're making stuff. If you can see on the thing, I built this is a nice hammer that I built. There's lots of cool stuff. Some of the shavings end up looking like roses. There's the logo for Bum Rush Industries. It's actually the perfect logo. If you're seeing the video, you'll understand why, because we're making shit stools and it looks like a butthole. That one, I had to describe it for the audio listeners. And, just figuring it out and saying, you know what, do you want to be the guy? What kind of, here's the word, what kind of content are you going to make to do this? Are you going to do it at all? Maybe you quit doing this content bullshit. I'm betting on this personality, this bald-faced idiot that I am. Oh, speaking of that, I lost hair on my face. I'm getting even balder than usual. Great beard. Trimmed it up today, as you can see. Or could maybe, I don't know why you'd know that. But I grew it out nice and long over last part of the year. And then now I got a bald spot. You can see it. I got a fucking bald spot on my face. It's like the size of a quarter and a half. At least it's not dead center, I guess. And I can kind of, it's so annoying. I got to go through a whole nother round of coming to grips with baldness. And this is just a patch on my face. I don't know what causes that. Is it alopecia or stress related or something? I hope it's just stress. I hope it doesn't, I don't know. That's annoying. So I guess we're just going to have to call it a happy accident, like Bob Ross. Bob Ross killed 14 people, by the way, in a car accident once. And he was like, oh, happy accident. That's where those bodies live. And he painted a fence over them. I was like, see, now they're not bodies. They're fences. They're fence posts going off into the distance towards the perfect perspective. Talented man, that Bob Ross. So yeah, it's been this ongoing thing that's been happening behind the scenes and on Twitch, which is neither behind the scenes or whatever. And we're doing a podcast now, and I'm making this woodworking thing, and I'm sticking with what I think is communicating about policies. We're still going to do some news stories. I don't have a ton today, honestly. I have we're going to do a little bit. Talk about Amazon a little bit. But it's not going to be the same as before. It might end up being kind of like that. I've got a different way of recording videos now. I'm not using in Premiere. I'm using OBS, which is the Twitch streaming software. It's actually like screen recording software too, with a kind of a all-in-one production kind of thing. And I've gotten pretty okay at using it. It's a pretty powerful program, pretty interesting. But so we are just trying to kind of coalesce all of this into one person who isn't embarrassed to do the career that they're doing. Because I've started out in comedy and stand-up, and then like I want to be, you still want to be a writer and still write stuff sometimes or whatever. And working at the Young Turks, and then I went back to the Young Turks, and between those two jobs, I did gig work and did horrible gig work. That was that had a radicalizing effect on me in my politics, which were already fairly left, even before that, but pushes you real hard into the further left, which I'm not sure why you're considered an extremist, because you think the economy should be designed to maximize human flourishing and human dignity. We should maximize leisure and minimize work. as much as possible. And the, I don't know, advertising is just, it's just so evil. Just the ways people are manipulated into their insecurities being forever provoked. Whatever. There's plenty we could say about that. But oh, and then with the Young Turks union busting campaign that happened in 2020, that was incredibly, I guess, radical. I don't know if that's necessarily how those connect, but it's just like, what the, I was talking about this other shit. So yeah, so I have these like buckets of stuff that I do, like video editing. Animation is kind of connected to that, but then you got the, like, formerly the stand up, and the podcaster guy talks about politics, and then there's the video game stuff that I've done on Suck Professor over the years. So we have like well over 1,000 videos, and we subscriber base of like 7,000 something. Although recently, since I've been posting so many gaming videos, we've been hemorrhaging subscribers from Suck Professor. Lost like 150 subscribers. I can't blame them. They're all getting oh shit! I touched. Sorry, I got this light thing that's really delicate. I built it myself. Thus, it doesn't work really well. A lot of people on Suck Professor subscribe to what they thought was like a show discussion channel, and all of a sudden they're getting, multiple emails a day saying, "Hey, this dumbass has a video game playthrough that you might want to watch about Valheim." So I'm not blaming anybody for leaving. That's totally fine. And it's sort of I kind of realized that I never tied them all together into a raft, into a Voltron tied up with rope. Makes me think about if, like, maybe Gulliver Travels was like just guy who was really into BDSM. I dabbled with that a little bit. It didn't. It was more. Yeah. So there's a story for you. Yeah. So it's I'm a little all over the place, and I have a being off Twitter is really interesting. The way it changes how you ingest what's going on in the world. I pulled back from it mainly because of like just to, like, a last ditch effort to protect my mental health. I needed to get away from it. I needed a space in my head to focus and to do other things, like make these websites and to get other shit going and to start doing face camera stuff. Oh God, who caught that? See, check that out. I have amazing reflexes. I swear I could have been a professional athlete. I mean, look at these shoulders, huh? Yeah. So, gaining the energy to push forward and to try to make something work and to use your time wisely, got to always be productive. We're working hard. It's capitalism, baby. We're going to sell these things and right into the rich house. They call it the poor house, but no one ever calls it the rich house. It sounds like they had that canned. I didn't. I just thought of that and said it into a microphone like a moron. So it's been a hell of a fucking few months for me, meaning very good in a sense. So it's been a time of growth, change, personal growth. I don't know. I don't know. Getting on camera was a big step out of my comfort zone, especially since I put on some weight in the last few decades. I get this brain thing where I go, oh, you got to lose this much weight. You got to be at this weight. You got to, come on, you fat fuck, get it down. You get it down. And then, a little while ago, it's like, yeah, fuck that. There's all kinds of, whatever. It's stupid. It's just a stupid mindset. It's stupid. And yet another thing to try to that is sort of self-sabotaging in a way. And I guess that's sort of what I've been doing. And I'll move on from talking about this too much real soon, but I've been kind of like tearing down those self-sabotaging habits and thinking patterns. And I'm optimistic and hopeful, and I have trust in the process, and just meaning that if you do things consistently and you do them a lot, people will maybe find you and turn up and have fun with and be part of the community or whatever. And speaking of that, I'm going to be like getting guests on and stuff too. So with Zoom and Twitch and shit, I both want to be able to go on camera and go on other people's shows, but it's have others on my show. So I'm going to be harassing former guests of Winners and Losers and seeing if anybody wants to come on the show. And then, we'll spread out to talking to newer people, and it'll be like a thing. I'll be the guy who talks about how much it sucks that everybody has to live their bullshit jobs and crappy work lives and this fucked up society that America is seems intent on maintaining while also selling beautiful candle holders. So weird. I'm making my own merch. Like if it's strange that I'm doing that, it's like, yeah, I love this woodworking stuff. I'd like to. I have this dream someday of leaving LA and living somewhere cheaper, quieter, around a lot less people, and doing woodworking stuff while this kind of making podcasting and talking and just kind of having a community of people that are interested in all this shit. Speaking of that too, I've been. I don't think I was trying to say this earlier, but I've been streaming woodworking on Twitch. I've been putting the camera on this little holder thingy I got and pointing it at my bench on my balcony while I work. And because it's outside and neighbors are around and sometimes they walk by and talk and I have to mute it, I don't talk during it. I have a whiteboard that I write messages on and maybe draw. I draw a bunch of butts during one of them. I was doing butt joints, so that was on my mind. And I've so far built a cubby, a sanding disc cubby, and made some candle holder videos where I stained them and waxed them, which is a type of finishing process. So doing woodworking streams, doing gaming streams, now we're doing podcasting again. And gonna get into some articles and stuff, and that's where we are. I'm trying to navigate around the burnout timer that I'm always starting. Every time I get back up to it, that burnout timer starts all over again. So I'm trying to take care of my head and manage my stresses and manage my anxieties and all the other fucking ghosts that haunt the catacombs of my fucked up brain. I just had a tiny burp there. Into maintaining this some kind of semblance of effort, because it feels like being burnt out I've felt totally burnt out the entire time I worked at the Young Turks the second time, because I'd come off whatever. There's a lot of other circumstances that have yet to be discussed and stuff. So then the union thing, that was just so fucking crazy. The union thing story at the Young Turks. So I hope people who might be listening to this, I can't talk to people who aren't listening. That's a little nonsensical. I hope you're all doing okay. I hope you're doing well. And, you have every reason to be skeptical that I'm going to make this work. I would be. Why wouldn't, you'd be a fool for not, believing what you've seen already. And, this feels like yet another pattern. And, but what else is there? You keep trying until you can't, and then you try some more and you adjust course and you try to make changes, and you have to make some decisions. Because it has occurred to me to quit, just to fucking give it all up, just to walk away. Go, I don't know what that means. I want to work in the wood industry, meaning woodworking. I want to be like, I don't know. That's kind of what I was trying to get to. Partially why I'm doing this too, this business I'm starting, is to show, I want to talk about starting a business. I want to share the experience of selling stuff online and making things. And I'm not importing garbage from, some overseas manufacturer and then just upping it and having clever marketing to try to sell extra pieces of rubber and plastic into the world. I'm getting furniture from the streets, the curbs. LA is flush with free toilets. I'm just selling toilets on Etsy. No. But there are toilets do appear on the streets of LA like mushrooms. In the morning, there'll just be a whole bunch that weren't there the night before. But people throw their furniture out, and some of it's decent. There's a lot of good wood and furniture. Plus, I don't have a much of an ability to flatten boards. You need really flat boards in woodworking to do it properly. I can flatten boards on a small scale with hand planes and things on my little bench, but you need bigger equipment to do properly flattening boards. And when you use furniture, though, it's already been flattened. So I've got a lot of dresser parts. The sanding disc cubby I made was made from 2 different dressers. And I'm getting wood from construction sites. This right here was a part of sorry, I keep bumping my mic there, was a big framing timber part board that I found near a dumpster. This guy right here. It's really pretty. Check it out. This one too. These guys came from the same one, as well as in the video the mallet that you've seen that also came from that board, as did this candle holder. So these things are all sort of connected, and I'm kind of, the way I'm conceptualizing that business is, so I was talking about this on the stream earlier too. So like with Etsy, been watching a ton of videos on how to make an Etsy business work. Mistakes, do's and don'ts. What do you wish you knew? Beginner mistake, blah, blah, blah. If you have no audience, Etsy is, the gist of it all is that Etsy's like a good starter kit for online sales. If you don't have a audience to sell to, or you're still new, it doesn't cost a lot to get on Etsy. You got to do it right. You got to take some decent pictures. There's best practices and stuff. And you have to know that the shipping is a little freaking me out a little bit. I don't think it's going to be as hard as as my imagination will tell me it's going to be. How many people are constantly shipping crap all day long, every day? Of course, I can figure that out. But Etsy is a big site. There's a lot of users, and it helps people get discovered. I guess it just means that strangers might find your store. And, of course, it has its own algorithm bullshit that you have to kind of be aware of. But if you have an audience of people, I'm running out of breath, you don't need Etsy. You can sell on your own site. Of course, plenty of places sell through their own site. So eventually I'm going to be opening bumrushindustries.com. Well, I mean, it's already up, but like as a e-commerce thing. Because my hope is that people who listen to the show, who watch the Twitch stream, either the woodworking or the gaming or whatever, maybe there'll be other stuff eventually, that they are interested in the story of the woodworking, but also like they'd like to buy some of the stuff. These things are kind of cool. These are neat little candle holders, and that their purchase will support a creator that they like, that they care about. I have a Patreon as well. I haven't even posted anything yet, although it is ready for money. because I did do a Patreon before for Suck Professor. Had a little Patreon. We had a small little group of people. That was really fun. That died off, of course. So the idea is that the audience hopefully grows, and that means that the woodworking business will grow, at least the opportunity to sell stuff. And these aren't going to be super cheap. I don't know what to charge for this stuff. I really have no idea. They're boutique. I can't charge a little. Like this in a store would probably be like, oh, that's like a $5 piece of shit wood, maybe 8 or 10. But like, I'm not competing on volume. I'm not IKEA. I'm not the fucking TJ Maxx or the Bed Bath and Beyond, where they're, some, slave in a different country is making stuff, or some machine is making it. I'm doing this by hand. I do have some hand tools on my balcony, and, so prices are, I don't know what to charge. I'm thinking like 15-ish to 20-ish, like nothing, like not ridiculous, but like this nice big one. This thing took forever to make. These curves are really hard and annoying to sand. This is actually Douglas fir, I believe. It's a really beautiful conifer. So in terms of what I was doing before with Twitter, meaning that was sort of my primary flow of information about the world, and I was always up to speed on the news, at least the algorithm bubble that I existed in. That is gone. So I'm getting the news now from websites and stuff, and also going days without looking at the news, which is a privilege I'm getting to enjoy. But I was also like, I have to, because I'm not well enough to handle that amount of daily stress and daily anguish that you get from watching this nightmare society. So I'm like, I think our news analysis is going to reflect that. I and I always like to talk about the bigger systems and the bigger pictures, and I try to find ways that different things thread to, connected, because everything is interwoven in this world. And a lot of times I'm just thinking like, I'm just kind of like a know-it-all college freshman saying the most obvious things in the world, because everything more or less I say to me is extremely obvious, which might be where some of the condescension comes from. I don't know. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that evolves too, in terms of like where news, I don't know where it comes from, because I might be doing a story about something that's like been on Twitter for 2 days, and therefore it's mostly mostly used up. And I might actually end up back on Twitter a little bit just to sort of get a feel for what people are saying or what some, because there are positives. There's a lot of smart, interesting, funny, good people who write interesting, funny, good stuff on Twitter or share interesting links. So I don't think it's a resource that should be completely neglected, but I was absolutely overdosing on it completely, and social media in general. And so I've shifted some of that energy to overdosing on Instagram. No, I'm not. I'm not really. I mean, I still look at Instagram. It's filled with engineering fails. I like those. I've gotten a lot of boxing in my recent streams, and of course, magnificent butts. So done rambling about all that. I'm sure I'll say more about it in the future. I have a couple things to do. Let's check in on our Amazon thing here. This is something I've been wanting to try out. We're going to do a Google Earth thing here. This is not exactly related to the audio stream, but so as you guys know, Amazon's had this union drive. Well, the Amazon employees had a union drive that has been met with aggressive, persistent, expensive union busting. Not unlike the union busting law firm that the Young Turks hired to work on their union busting campaign. Some of the tactics are identical. Captive audience meetings, messing and challenging the bargaining unit. A lot of the playbook, a lot of the union busting playbook is employed throughout the union busting ecosystem. But of course, like these are not the same situations. Amazon and Young Turks are not even close to comparable in size. They did stuff like, but now Jeff Bezos wasn't running for office for Congress, which Cenk Uygur was. And so unlike Cenk Uygur, Jeff Bezos did not suggest that the union was a conspiracy by his congressional opponent. That was, I think, a pretty unique union busting tactic that I'm actually looking forward to exploring more, and just crazy. But anyway, not here to talk about that, although clearly it's on my mind. But in fact, one of the techniques they used was like they had the local city change the stoplights. So organizers are out there trying to talk to people at red lights. That gives them a minute or two to go up and say something, hand them a flyer or something. And they made it so that the green lights were a lot longer and that people were driving right by the organizers, just preventing the information from getting out. Police were all over the place, being intimidating, and, private guards. And the Pinkerton Detective Agency, which is sounds like a fictional thing. You've heard of it. They were famously one of the more prominent union busters and like mercenary gangs of the 1800s and 1900s, early 1900s. They're a well-known part of history. They still exist. They're still a thing. They were hired by Amazon. TYT did not hire the Pinkertons, to be clear. I'm not making a direct comparison to that. So, we got to see where Bessemer, Alabama is. It's just a little southwest of Birmingham, or Birmingham, if you're a local. I have no idea how locals pronounce it. And they had the vote. The vote occurred a while back. I'm not sure if the vote lasted over the full month or whatever, but they finally got the count. And of course, it was a pretty disappointing result. I think, I don't know the numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but it was roughly 2/3 to 1/3 voted no versus yes. And that's not unsurprising. People who are aware of this, I follow a lot of labor. See, doesn't really, I'm tracking labor a little close. That's one of the sort of areas of the progressive lefty, whatever sphere that I am still dialed into, or tried to be at least, when I see articles and stuff. And it's it was an uphill battle all the way. And then even the fact that we got this close is a good thing, is a good sign, I guess. Man, it's so annoying though, isn't it? It's so fucking frustrating that they won, that the billionaires and the governments that they control and the police, which is part of the government, which is the violent part of government, was also involved. Biden said something about how he supported people's right to unionize. I don't recall if he said specifically that he was, but he seemed to be for the union, which is, Biden could do a hell of a lot more, but in the way we've all been conditioned to expect our presidents to look out for their billionaire donors and their their corporate interests and corporate backers, the people who they rub elbows with when they're burying bodies outside of on the dumping bodies into the waters outside of some rape island. Their class, they look after their class interests, and then they murder the guy who was the Epstein. They fucking killed that guy. Jesus Christ. But just the fact that a president said unions should be a thing or whatever was a step forward, which is sort of, good, but also like, really, this is where we're at, where that's fucking good. It's like saying like, oh, stab yourself in the eye with a needle, not a screwdriver. That's better. I don't think that analogy really makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, we lost it. It didn't go down. It didn't happen. I don't know. We're flying around Google Earth here. I don't know where the Amazon warehouse is, so I'm not looking. I find this Google Earth quite interesting. There's a golf course. Those fucking jerks. Waste of land. I like golf a lot, but man, if you learn about the way golf courses, just like the per person per like acre and the cost and the upkeep and the water usage for them, especially, they're not really the best thing. It's much cheaper to water a tennis court. A good tweet thread came across. I did actually catch this on Twitter. So let's talk about Twitter now. I'm going to go straight to it for some information. But this is Andy Levin, who is, I think he's a congressperson. Let me take a look here. Congressman in Michigan, 09, a union organizer, clean energy entrepreneur, human rights activist, dad joke teller, and a hockey player. All right. By dad jokes, I can't think of a dad joke. I only have uncle jokes. Sorry. So anyway, he had a decent tweet that I just thought, or a tweet thread that I thought I'd just read. We just go through real quickly here. You can see it on youtube.com/UXRF457894247 #. I don't have a URL yet, but it's on the YouTube channel, but I'm going to read it all here. He says, okay, I'm watching the vote count live in the NLRB election among Amazon workers in Bessemer. The crush of congressional business is great, but I'm so nervous I can't tear myself away. This is on April 8th. I wonder if many folks realize how huge the odds are against these workers winning their union election. People may see a lot of symptoms. Sorry, I'm just going to relocate this thing here. That makes more sense to be closer to the camera like that. Oh, fuck. Sorry, hang in with me. People may see a lot of sympathetic press about their valiant effort. It's one thing to watch from afar, but quite another to live through an election like this in your own workplace. Sorry. The pressure a company like Amazon builds up against you can feel like a 1,000-pound weight on your chest. That's right there. That's where your chest is. The goal of the company like Amazon in one of these elections is not to win hearts and minds, not to persuade people, not to have a truthful debate about the pros and cons of workers having a union. In parentheses, it would be hard for them to win such a debate. The company's goal is to create so much pressure, anxiety, and fear, and to make workers feel that the pressure will never go away as long as the union is around. That workers feel they have no choice but to vote no, like someone crying uncle when they have been threatened relentlessly for days, weeks, and months. And how does the company accomplish this? So here's the meat. Here's the meat of the meal. That's so true, though. Like the way that they like to, they want you to know that you are forever going to feel this intensity. You're always going to have the threat of the police. You're always going to have the threat of extra scrutiny from your managers, especially if it's a business that hires undocumented folks. They'll threaten you with ICE deportation, which even some can't think of the name, so I'm not going to make any guesses. But even some progressive organizations apparently during some union busting in the 2007 in the Trump era, last 4 years of the fucking that century, the longest 4 years of ever in all time. And that the only way you can alleviate the pressure is to, vote in favor with what the managers want, what the owners and the billionaires want in their interest. Vote in my interest, and we will slightly alleviate the stress, the extra stress that we've added to your life. It's terrible. It's so manipulative. Okay, here we go. And how does the company accomplish this? Andy Levin tweets. 1, by creating a suffocating, all-encompassing cloud of anti-union propaganda that surrounds workers every minute they're on the clock. 2, by forcing workers to attend mandatory meetings upon pain of dismissal if they wish not to attend at any point. So you're required if you and then you're subordinate if you don't go to the meeting. So they get to feed you all this anti-union propaganda. The Young Turks did this. 3, by at the same time. Now I want to clarify. I don't know if they said you'll be fired if you skip this meeting. I don't know if that's the case at TYT, but they held captive audience meetings. That's documented in the articles that have been written about it. 3, by at the same time refusing to allow the workers any access to union organizers or staff on work time at all. Okay. 4, by bringing in swarms of anti-union consultants to talk to the workers, advise them, listen to them, cajole them, even in a workplace like Amazon, where workers weren't allowed any time for such discussions about any topic on work time before the campaign broke out. So they're already not allowed to have discussions and to meet, but then they'll bring in, really well paid. I don't recall, but these people make a ton of money, these firms. Union prevention firms, I think is the term or something like that. It's such an overwhelming force that's coming at them. 5, by taking all manner of actions, large and small, to penalize leaders of the union effort, not so much to hurt them, but to make an example of them, to scare others, to make them feel their effort is futile or futile. 6, by delaying and obstructing the process, both to allow them more time to campaign against the union and build the pressure cooker, and also to make workers feel powerless and deflated. That absolutely happened at TYT. The union showed up with a card check election. The results were in favor of a union, and TYT rejected it and challenged it when they should have another election, and they wanted to control it. Totally. 7, to facilitate turnover, facilitates in quotes, and departures to dilute the pro-union vote. Parentheses, turnover in this and many American facilities may be as high as 100% annually. 100% annual turnover in a place. Think about that, though. What does that mean? Means that 1 December to the next December, 100% of the people are different workers. All right, yeah, that's a free country. People are free to not work somewhere. But it also means these communities aren't growing roots. Like there's in gardening or whatever, like you want deep, healthy ecosystems of nourishment that come from soil through roots, through trees and plants that fall and add to the soil as they go through their life cycles. And communities develop with diversity. I've actually been watching a lot of forestry videos lately. I'm serious about this woods working shit. And you end up with shallow, I want to stick with the root analogy, but you end up with shallow roots that are easily ripped up like sod, like astroturf, which doesn't even have a root. There's no community if you can't hold a job if jobs are so transient that you're not going to work somewhere for a long time, or there's other places to work in the area, you're just then kicked out into the usual hustle of side gigs and side hustles and gig jobs and other destabilized, shaky ground kind of employment. Wouldn't it, a company that doesn't have to do that would save money. Although in this case, Amazon wants people to live on the edge. They want them to be urinating in bottles for a year until they get burnt out or until some medical, like I read about this woman who she injured her back somehow from all the lifting and the oppressive quotas that they have to meet. And she now is just spending the rest of her life in pain trying to get health care. But Jeff Bezos got to pay for expensive antenna for the top of his yacht, one of his yachts. I don't know how many he owns, but I imagine it's probably more than one. So yeah, that's just bad. Like it just indicates the 100% turnover indicates to me that's a sign of a very sickened society. But it's good for the people who are in charge. So there you go. 8, to seem to dominate not only the workers, but society at large, leading to more feelings of powerlessness. Here, amazingly, by getting the city or county to change the traffic light at the employee entrance to prevent organizers from chatting with workers, and installing a USPS mailbox in the employee parking lot, even after the NLRB ruled against the company's request to install drop boxes because it would be intimidating and unfair. So to seem to dominate not only the workers, but society at large. I mean, Amazon of all companies, I'd say Walmart's up there, and some of these big, huge kind of institutional sorts of businesses have massive domination, monopolistic, monopsony is another word you'll hear. Uh, Domination of the country. I mean, you might not pick up on it, but what power. When something is bigger than a guy selling candle holders on his own stupid website, right? Um, that's interesting though, like because that's one of those invisible sorts of things where you just kind of submit to power, things that seem extremely wealthy, meaning they have the moneyed interest, they have the government interest, they have the military behind the government interest, they have the cops, they have the prisons. Those are all on the side of, this is an old story too. Those are all on the side of capital. Those are all on the side of management. Those are all on the side of the people who couldn't give a fuck if you died. They would only care if you showed up to make money for them or not that day. You're just totally replaceable. You're an entry. I was thinking about this. People, it's weird that we expense labor, that companies are allowed to write their labor expenses as the same as their physical equipment or the depreciation of their building or their electricity bills. Like labor costs are just another expense. They're in the expense column. As far as the spreadsheet is concerned, as far as that goes, you are just like cattle. You are just like, to me, that seems like a holdover from slavery, right? Like we don't think of human being, like, so if a company cuts their labor cost, hey, good news. We lowered the pay. We cut hours, whatever they did. We found a way to reduce what we have to give out for medical benefits. By cutting or increasing the premiums the employees pay that we don't have to pay now, or we saved ourselves some money based on a choice we made. The spreadsheet will now look better. The stock price might go up. A manager or an executive gets to tell themselves that they just did a good job by saving the company some money. There might be the occasional time where cuts to labor costs, because it's usually a substantial part of the cost of running a business. There might be a time where it's necessary, or the company will go under or something like that. I'm not saying it's never a thing at all. Like everything, every circumstance is different. But there's something very weird to me that we are okay with labor being expensed the same. There should be some sort of carve out for the way I don't know what the answer is here. I'm just kind of speaking off the cuff of my ass, or whatever that word is. That if the economy, if the society, if the culture was built around human flourishing and maximum dignity, minimum work, maximum leisure, we would have, I just feel like there'd be a different way of accounting for what it costs to pay people enough money so that they can have a decent life. I don't know how exactly that would shake out. If it would be a ratio of government help and business expenses too, because that's essentially what a social service is. A social service is providing something to someone who might not be able to afford it as because they are part of society, and with the understanding that that person's health benefits us all, and people's health benefits businesses too. It's one of the kind of ridiculous thing, like all the capitalist nations in Europe that are Northern European, the ones we strive to become. Those are still very capitalist countries. Their taxes are higher. They get much better social services. Their happiness is way higher. Their health is all better. They don't work as much. They have so much better outcomes, but they're still capitalists. All those social services are still basically subsidies to the capitalist organizations and the companies still. I'm not, I don't think we can flip a switch on capitalism as much as I would like to, but, look at the resistance in America to even becoming like Denmark, like a very wealthy capitalist country. Of course, a lot of European wealth also comes from its colonial past too. That shouldn't be ignored. Anyway, that's his number 8 was Andy Levin's final one there. And then he says, but one might say, if the company violates the NLRB rules for a fair election, won't the workers obtain justice in the end? I know these brave workers and this tough union will battle on, but let's be clear about the battlefield they're playing on. Yeah, it's tough, man. They're playing on an unfair battlefield. This is shitty. It's really crappy. So, yep, that's it. There's America for you. Hopefully, people. This has been in the news a lot. I think so, it seems like it's been kind of a prominent story. Let's hope this wakens some dormant imaginations. I think one of the ways people just accept why the world is crappy and why it's always going to be crappy. And hey, I got mine, but it kind of sucks, but I know that could be worse. Look, at least I'm not one of those homeless people. At least I'm not one of those black guys on TV getting murdered by the police. At least I'm not one of those, sad saps they make these documentaries about. At least I'm not one of those little kids trying to start up a lemonade stand to pay for their mother's cancer treatment. I got mine. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Whatever, blah. I'd like it to be different, but there's nothing else we can do. I think that's pretty common. I think there's just a lot of people sort of in the swollen middle who are don't have the imagination to imagine a better world, to imagine something other than this. None of this is natural. This is all just designed. This is just chosen. Someone didn't sit down. It's not like they sat down once and wrote down a list of the way this is all worked out. It kind of forms out of one incentive system to the next, and then there's also incentives not to do stuff, which that's even harder to detect, and you end up with power concentrating around itself and wanting to prevent others from having a seat at the table. That's the core of capitalism. That's why racism, patriarchy, sexism, all the other things feed into it, because it maintains power differentials. Everything always comes down to power differentials, whether somebody who has power wants to share it or not. And usually they don't. And the history of progress, the history of the human beings advancing, is when someone who doesn't have power fights and gets a little bit of that the person with power had. And that's what democracy is: shared power. We don't have a democracy in America. We have the trappings of it in some ways, but there's a reason the Republicans are trying to pass hundreds and hundreds of laws in dozens of states around the country to prevent more democracy. They're trying to make it harder for people to vote, and they're going to succeed in some ways. That's the only play they've got. That's just another rung on the ladder towards outright fascism, which is roughly where we're headed. I know there was a Tucker Carlson news segment recently where he basically spoke in support of, like, well, hey, look, it's going to have to be a fascist. I heard the audio. It was basically saying, like, look what these liberals, look what these Democrats being so rude are making me do. And to be fair, because you can't buy racist Dr. Seuss books, although I'm sure there's plenty available, well, then fascism. The Dr. Seuss story is so fucking stupid. It's so insane that, the culture war stuff is interesting to me. I mean, just in terms of like, I see what the Republicans' play is. I mean, this is kind of obvious to me, and should be to you, I would hope, that all they really care about is they're not running on their policies. They're not running on persuading anybody. They're just they've got their audience. They've got their supporters on very easy, very well-established pipelines of manipulation to get them to get upset about stuff like Dr. Seuss, which was a decision made by the publisher of the owner of the Dr. Seuss canon or whatever. They said, we're going to stop selling these 6 racist ones that have the racist, which was reflective of the time in which Dr. Seuss produced his work. Everybody was racist back. Everybody's racist now. You're racist the way a plant that grew up in you, everybody, me, everybody, because it absorbs into you like a nutrient in a garden, in a plant. That's the way I think of it. The society is deeply racist by design. And that's the stuff that it takes a long time to root out that integral chemical that kind of it's a good kind of fertilizer for people who want to maintain power differentials. I think that's a better approach to just understanding racism, as opposed to assigning it all these individualistic characteristics. you're a racist. I'm all that sort of straight, like, hey, and people will say, I'm not a racist. How dare you say I'm a racist? It's like, I work with a black guy at work. I'm friends with a black woman at work. She's great. I love her. It's like, yeah, well, you'd probably get upset if she and her family moved into your neighbor. I mean, I don't know. I don't mean about that person, but it operates. It's imbued in the culture so deeply through all the different ways, through media, through entertainment, through jokes, through the stories your family tells, the old stories your family might have, through your parents especially. That's one of the ways that it's all transmitted. And yeah, I think like if we advance 400 years past this and we've managed to avoid the worst of global warming somehow and finally came to our senses regarding the pollution that we're spewing into the air and just plastics all over the place, and we can look back, if we can look back intelligently with compassion on this time, they'll probably see these things with a lot different, from a whole different angle than what we have right now. And so I think I don't know, that's a mental exercise I do a lot to try to like just revert. I think the healthcare apocalypse is utterly befuddling that we just let 70,000 people die every year. And that we don't like put healthcare executives in jail. I was saying this on the stream or somewhere. I was talking, it's the worst video game stream. It's just, but like, no serial killer has ever come close to killing as many people as a healthcare executive in a month of their day, of their year. Not even close. And we let them do that 12 months a year, every decade. Thousands dead. It's just crazy to me. It's just like, how could we look at, like, we look back at stuff, leeches, although they still use leeches in medicine. That's like the go-to example for how fucked up things used to be. Slavery's not gone anyway. It's been moved into the prisons and overseas. It's just yeah. All right, bumming myself out here. All right, well, that's the Amazon stuff. I was going to tell a story about getting scammed. I almost got scammed while driving my car. I don't know if I have time for that, though. I think we're going on a while here, of course, as usual. So I'm just going to end. One of the things that's been in the news, first, we're going to skip this bear story. We got bears walking on a treadmill. I think we'll do that another time. This says the headline for the New York Times is "What Bears Can Teach Us About Our Exercise Habits." Fascinated to see this. I assume that the bear, does keto, does about 10 push-ups every other day, like I do, and then hopes his wrist doesn't give out that he got from building something that was. Why am I trying to make this about me? Of course. We're gonna skip the bear story. One of the big news stories that I missed was Biden falling on the stairs. Now, you might say you shouldn't make fun of a guy who falls down the stairs. I would agree to that. But you should make fun of people who fall up the stairs, especially if they're a powerful person, the president of the country. I don't even know how I'm going to react to this. It might not. I've just heard others joking about it. This is not a sophisticated take or anything. I just like seeing powerful people being embarrassed. One thing that struck me watching the Biden inauguration in January, like the 20th, the 21st or whatever, was these these television events. They had to do it with the pandemic, and they did like a remote version of it, which actually they pulled it off better than you'd expect, but it's still, in terms of like, they've never done a pandemic inauguration before. So with modern, our world, not the 1919 pandemic or 1920 or whatever. I'm not sure if it was a presidential election that year. I should know that. I could do the math if I rewind. I think there was. Whatever. Betraying my ignorance. Anyway, watching it all though, with like Biden and his wife, and they stand there and they look at they wave to the fireworks and all the production, Eva Longoria, Tom Hanks, and these celebrities and these produced set pieces at the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument. That guy was a human trafficking piece of shit. Why, this is the symbol for Washington Monument. He was terrible. We celebrate them in this country. We have monuments to people who lived on slave camps and death camps. They lived in concentration camps where they tortured people and forced them to work for nothing, and and they sent violent police. What they didn't call them police at the time. They sent violent men to chase down anybody who dared to escape, and they sold human beings. And that's the person on our dollar bill. That's the person. Anyway, whatever. That's not what I meant to get into. It's very facile arguing there to be, George Washington. Lots of other things need to be solved before we rip down the Washington Monument and replace it with a monument to his victims. Anyway, Biden's inauguration was just pure propaganda. It was so gross. It was just pure, and everybody's relieved because of Trump being gone and these fucking, troglodyte, disgusting monsters that Trump brought in, and Biden's going to be better, and it is better. It's better than the Trumps. How could you possibly not be better than the Trumps? But the obviousness of the propaganda of that they're leaning on heavily produced, heavily edited, but like it's government. It's inauthentic. It's government by spectacle. And I'm not sure what it would look like if you didn't have that. Like, what would, is it just going to be like a blank office with some guy talking and being like, yeah, I'm the president. All right, we're going to do this. Like, I suppose in some degree, you're always going to have a bit of the pomp and circumstance and the ceremony. And it's kind of obnoxious how much human beings fall for that. Maybe that's just cultural conditioning. I think deep in our roots, we do have like instinctive resonance with rituals. I really believe. I'm pretty sure this could be supported by archaeological evidence and anthropological study. Humans would go through trials of maybe coming into manhood or womanhood or maturing out of childhood into adulthood, and rituals around death too, funerals and grieving processes that were certainly much more organic 50,000 years ago than now. So I think that humans kind of, I don't think rituals are necessarily bad, is what I'm saying. They can become weird and crazed and strange, and they can seem very bizarre, but most of like those dudes, the dudes, I think I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like a total root dumbass. There's some Middle Eastern something guys. It's always just men. So that's not great, but they dance and they look like they're having a great time, and they're dancing in circles, or they're dancing in, like, there's actually one meme, I guess, and it's like a rap song that's playing while these guys, someone took this video. Tell me where the freak's at. Whatever. Point is, that behavior is very bonding. You feel very connected to people you dance with. Even like square dancing, the fucking American form of dancing, which is, of course, it's called square dancing.
Places all join hands, circle left. Now circle right and listen to me. LS, MFT. Elementary corners like swinging on a gauge.
And it's kind of the original social distancing, isn't it? You sort of, they used to teach square dancing in school. I remember having to fucking go to, yeah. God damn, does that still happen? Is that a sign of being super old? Square dancing was a thing. So fucking nuts. Point is, people bond from collective experiences, is what I'm saying. It's not, what's true about those dudes dancing in big circles and having a great time is true about people going to a, Arizona Diamondbacks, putt-putt bar. Do they do putt-putt bars before baseball games? Probably. People bond, okay? I want to go to an Adele concert and sing the entire time. I don't care if anybody else sings. I just want to be singing in the front row. I would go to an Adele concert, though. Maybe not by myself. I feel like that'd probably trigger my depression. But oh yeah. So the inauguration was just it's like really, we're just gonna do this kind of Hollywood pablum. this nonsense. And that stuff works, though. Advertising works. Propaganda works. I don't know how you stop it. Meaning, I mean, you can pass laws. I think advertising to children should be illegal, although that would probably impact content production for children's stuff or whatever. But like making children incentivized to make purchases seems like a deeply rooted kind of disease that a society that cared about its children wouldn't do. Watch the, every episode is probably going to have an Adam Curtis reference. I haven't finished watching his new series. In fact, I only just started the first episode. But Century of the Self on YouTube is fascinating if you're interested in how mass propaganda works. Century of the Self, Part 1. It's a 4 parts. Goes deep. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's fascinating though, about the origins of mass media and mass manipulation and public relations and all that stuff. So that's where we are. It's not going away. It's I don't know how do you get rid of all this nonsense. I don't think you really, not to say you should be powerless to mitigate its effects, but I think we're all conditioned to kind of accept it too, to look at it as normal. These I don't know. And like when the all the wealthy people gather, the connected and the powerful gather for these inaugurations, Republican or Democrat, you're watching a scene from the movie where the girl holds up her fingers and she's a tribute. What the fuck? Capital City, where the lady has the terrible, weird makeup and hair. She looks like Johnny Depp from that Charlie movie. Oh, I can't. What's the name of that movie? It's not Twilight. Man, that's an updated reference as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Jennifer Lawrence, yeah, she's in it. So, this is what I'm like when I go to CVS. This is the conversation I have with about 4 different people. So we're government. All the wealthy gather around and they sit there, and then we watch it on TV, and that sort of sends a signal that this society is okay. They're all good. Look at those nice designers. Oh, they've got some young artist who's speaking. Everything's okay. Not to impugn any younger people for being participating. And these are spectacles. These are things that are meant to sell you on a story that's not true. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that a default for me is I measure politicians by who they hurt and companies for who they hurt and what harm are they causing? Isn't that how you, like, if you have a friend who's like, yeah, he's a good guy. He kills kittens a couple times a year, but the rest of the time it's great. It's like, no, you'd be like, that's the kitten killer. We're not friends with the kitten killer. We don't do that. Let the other people, no. So that's, everybody's distasteful with me. And that's why an old man falling on the stairs is something to be mocked and made fun of. I haven't watched this yet. Let me plug in my little earpiece thing here so I can hear it. I hope he grunts loudly. I hope we hear a lot of, people make, you ever heard someone, we've all fallen down. Can't get this fucking thing in my, all right. We've all fallen down. We've all watched others fall down. And there's one thing about that. If you just close your eyes, although who can close their eyes while watching someone fall? That's a weird response, unless it's just too overwhelming you have to. But the noises that come out of people's mouths are just bonkers when people fall down. It's a lot of crazy grunting that's not like a voiceover grunting. I'm just pointing that out. All right. Somebody had to tell the truth around here. So here's Biden. I haven't seen this yet. I'm excited to watch this. It's a 23-second clip. I might pause it. There he goes. Oh, okay. It's a slip. All right. One more. Oh, and now he's on his knees. Checking his pants. All right. Final 3 steps. Does he make it? Now, if he really... Okay. Let me just finish my thought. He should have done a backflip back down the stairs and then run up. Just to show how nimble he is. He's in great shape for his age. He's got that lean body. I bet he doesn't even look that bad in a pair of Speedos for his age. I would look terrible. I was a chubby guy and I got stretch marks and stuff. And, you know, it's all kind of it's an adorable belly, to be honest. But you know, decently shaped guy. This was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was in terms of like the falling. He did slip. Okay, turns, does a thing, and of course in his brain he's going, "Oh shit, that's gonna. I'm gonna have to explain that to whatever my wife's name is." So one more time. Let's see how we do here. Okay, sorry, back up. Jeez. Okay, we'll go back further. The foot drops, his hand goes down, he's holding onto the railing on the right. These stairs have carpeting. And he's probably wearing business guy shoes. Business guy shoes usually, and I think the good ones, they have like the slipperiest, they're like bowling shoes on the bottom. Usually there's the heel and the smooth leather. I have a nice pair of shoes I've worn about 5 times. And they're not like track and field. What am I thinking of? Training shoes? What are they called? Cross train. No, I don't know. What kind of cross track shoes? There's a term for that. Anyway, they have a grip. They're meant for trail hike, whatever, running. Most shoes have grippy bits on the bottom. I know a guy that gave up shoes. He became one of those foot glove guy things. And he actually said it kind of hurt for a while because your muscles are all fucked up from wearing shoes. And then you switch and then actually it feels really good and you feel really in touch with the ground. And that certainly resonates with my whole thing about ancestral alignment. But I'm definitely never going to become that guy. I mean, a lot of other shit has to be going on in my life, going well for me to be like, you know what I think I got to do? I'm going to put gloves on my feet. Fuck these shoes. I like shoes. I have a pair of boots I need to refurbish. The uppers are great, but the bottoms are all fucked up because those make my main boots in Chicago. So he's wearing slippery shoes. He's running up carpet. He does this thing where he jogs. He likes to show that he's tough. That's an old man move, is to threaten to fight young guys. Now, old men can be surprisingly strong. Let me tell you, they can catch you off guard with their fighting or their strength, because you think that their white hair and their, baldness and their skin turning into zombie slough means that they will crumble. And that is true for many of them. I am banned from nursing homes in 16 states for that exact reason. But they can also catch you off guard, because a man in his 70s might have been in a few scrapes, and maybe your 21-year-old dumbass is going to overreact, and they're going to know how to get you in a headlock, and they put their arms funny. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. So he slips. I don't think this is a big deal. He just keeps trying to go for Okay, now it's good. It's funnier when you pause it. Oh, now he's down on the knee. That's the trip. Oh, we can see the bottom of his shoes. So those don't look like good shoes. He needs to be wearing crampons, not croutons, crampons. Those are those spiky things. There's snowshoes for shoes. Snow tires for shoes. No, snowshoes are different. Snowshoes are like when you wear tennis rackets. That's a whole. Crampons are for ice climbing and mountain climbing. The spiky toe kick, and they're about as good a grip as you're going to hope for. That's what he should be wearing to get up these stairs. Clearly, I mean, just don't run, you dumbass. Don't do the look at me. Oh yeah, old men like to fight young men, or threaten to anyway, and they also like to jog. The jog shows you that you're still limber, that those hips are still, those hips can still fuck. You know what I mean? I want to be I think it's disgusting, old people having sex, but I want to be one of them. I hope that I'm in my 80s still getting boners and being like, oh, let's do it. I'm bald. Let's do it. Let's come on, babes. You're 79. I'm 80. Younger women. I don't really want that. I hope that the horniness goes away. That's my hope for life. I like being horny when there's a outlet for it. That's fun. It's actually better than most other activities. Catching a really big fish, is actually quite thrilling too, but that's even harder to do than having sex. Yeah, no, it's great. I love it. It's disgusting and terrible and beautiful and all. Yeah, it's the pandemic. Okay, I'm starting to get my pandemic brain. Yeah, man, can't wait. I yeah, it's so lonely. But no, my hope is not to be an old horny. I want to just be non-sexual. I don't want the horniness to taper off. I would like to, if I could turn it on and off now, frankly, because it's not been. There's no, it. Maybe that's one of my goals too, is to get to the point where I can have human interactions with females again, and even not even just sex. I just human touch in a in a non creepy, gross way, which I know I am, but like people need to be touched. You're back to ancestors. They were probably cuddling and touching quite a bit. They lived really in close quarters. They were more than likely having multiple partners. Who knows? Well, we know they weren't as fucked up as we are, but the dearth of touch, the lack of being held is detrimental to your body. It just hurt. It just like it just there's a soothing, there's an instinctive health to feeling another human being's warmth via their hand on you or you touch them or something like that in a consensual, healthy, intimate way, not the non. That's another. So yeah, it sucks. So that's okay. That's why we do 10 push-ups every other day and say that's what we call working out. I've been doing a little morning leg yoga. I do these arm things and I just do just enough so I don't sweat. which is more than zero, which is a lot, but it is nowhere near enough. I do. It is my hope in terms of like yoga and health is like I get into a relationship and I'm kind of like she talks me into it. I could very easily be persuaded to become hot yoga boyfriend. It'd be a while, We'd have to draw a man bun or tape a cinnamon bun on my head in order to, fully achieve the dream. This thing is pulling on my ear and driving me nuts. So there's Biden falling, gets up, checks his pants. Now it would be funny if he had slid down, or if the stairs had, how that move where stairs go, they turn into a slide, and then he goes, woo, and then he just turns around and tries to run up him like a very unintelligent dog. So, yeah, no, that's ridiculous. The scrutiny that people face in these positions is insane. Setting aside liking or not liking these fucking people, but like the amount of scrutiny on a president is ridiculous, and they're of course ideological opponents are gonna seize on anything to make fun of him. It's fine. He slipped. His shoes are slippery on some carpeted stairs as he's old man jogging upwards, and that's just confident walk. I wouldn't want to see him like when Trump struggled with a very slight ramp. I made fun of him for that. Mr. Big Tough Guy, the model of all humanity. But I have a bias. I'm very biased. I don't know if his viewers saw that and said, "Oh yeah, well that's just him being safe." Him clutching the arm of the military dude who's next to him, And this is our the one savior of the world, the true man, this fucking loser Trump, this coward who could barely handle steps. His heels are giant. You've seen pictures of his back. It must be tough wearing goofy ass shoes like that. So powerful people, we make fun of them. That's a creed around here, I'd say. They don't deserve the respect that you've been conditioned to offer them. Oh, how dare you? Somebody called Dick Cheney an asshole or something once, and the Secret Service investigated him, and they made sure, who is this guy? Said it to his face because he was like walking by, and he just happened to be near. American politicians, especially at the higher levels, the vice presidents, presidents, and stuff, they so rarely really interact with any regular person. That wall forms around them. And that wall is mostly Netflix executives who are going to give them Netflix producing deals. Congrats, Obama. I hope you make good content, you and Michelle. That's what the president's doing, is cashing in on his fame. Well, what do you think? I have the scammer story I was going to tell is a good one. Yeah, a guy like pulled me over in a car and then tried to tell me that I hit his car and he wanted me to give him cash. But there's more to it. There's a lot more to it. I'm not going to tell it right now. We're in a few hours feels like it. Over an hour. Part of my plan too is to keep this shit tighter. So yeah, we're gonna end the show right now, but we're under an hour and a half, so I'm happy about that. I want to keep it around an hour, and so under an hour and a half is a good start as far as it goes for me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And for your patience. Please hang with me. Please give me a chance. I'm doing this for some reason. It's not. I wouldn't have been able to maintain any interest or effort over all these years if I didn't. And I hope to see that this grows, and I have some ideas for larger, kind of more prominent sorts of content. Like I'd like to make documentaries and stuff, and so it's just shifting from being the guy, although that's exactly what we did today, but doing like Twitter anger. I'm just regurgitating my Twitter anger into a podcast, which is what a lot of podcasts do. I'm trying to shift that into like the bigger theme sort of conversations, as well as like I'm going to share this woodworking experience with everybody. I'm working really hard on it. If the hope is that in a few months or years or whatever, like you hear me talk about how I'm moving out of LA to a much quiet. I want to live in a rural-ish sort of outside of a town. I'd like to just get out of 20 years in cities. I'm done with it. And opening a better a bigger workshop. Like there's going to be reasons to celebrate and to have successes and stuff. And that means mostly emotional comfort and emotional security of being able to support myself and to maintain the output needed to do so, to justify asking an audience to support me with money and or their either via their views or Patreon or via selling amazing, badass, cool, unique, one-of-a-kind candle holders. So I'm actually coming up with a scheme. Scheme is not the right word, but it is. I mean that non-pejoratively. Is that even the right word? I don't know. Where these so in order to make these candle holder holes, I have a thing called a Forstner bit, 1.5 inches. Here's a plastic. I hate these plastic ones. I bought a small pack of them. And the votive candles to themselves, I think they make them out of palm oil. Like palm oil is problematic. Like everything is fucking problematic. However, to get the flat bottomed hole, you use a Forstner bit, which cuts it and grinds it out, but it leaves this point in the middle. I forget what that's called. There's a name for that. See, look at this one. You can toss it. Whoa, that got a lot closer to working than I expected. And so I'm trying to come up with a way to fill that hole, because it gets, actually you can even see there's some wax in this one. So because I wax them and the wax dries and it looks cool. It's paste wax and it turns beautiful satin finish. But these little holes are obnoxious. I find them a little ugly. Not that it matters. The thing the candle covers it up, right? So you don't have to worry about it. But I'm going to fill these, I think, with a colored epoxy. The thinking is that like I want to sort of come up with a way to like make production runs so that people know, like, so for like, say I have a bigger board and I can make like 10 candle holders out of that board. I'll make a video or something of it. And then that board will all get the same color of that. So that I can say, this is the series of stuff I'm making. And then like the next one will have a different color. That way I can differentiate one video to the production run. You can tell how much I overthink everything. But this process will add a little time, but it'll also prevent me from having to like worry about like scraping the wax out of these things. Just pull the wax out and it's funky. That's something I'm thinking about right now. So, I hope by the end of that or within this process, you learn about businesses or how to form a business or the kind of decisions a person has to make. Maybe it can help someone, do something on their own themselves. That'd be wonderful. I would be so thrilled to hear that, especially if it's woodworking. One of my favorite things about the woodworking world is it's very cooperative. Woodworkers love to teach, at least the YouTube types particularly. But from what I can tell, woodworkers are very, they're kind of just like instinctive comrades with each other. We've all cut our hands badly. I actually cut my thumb the other day on my hand plane using my hand plane in a shooting board. was being sloppy and rushing a little too much, and I was, not careful, and I sliced off a tip of my thumb. Although I was very lucky that the blade wasn't set too deep, so it did bleed pretty badly, but it healed pretty quickly too. Got woodworkers all kind of go through I think a similar. We all kind of get that it's a difficult, challenging, kind of expensive hobby. You can do it on the cheap too. It can be rewarding and frustrating, but I notice how cooperative the woodworking world seems to be. There's a lot of teaching and learning going on, and I learn every time I do anything, even if it's something I think I've already done before. I'm always kind of refining and learning, and that's one of my favorite things about it. So I'm hoping to share that, and that you guys can learn from that. So check out the Valheim playthrough on Suck Professor. Give it a try. I'm on camera, and I have fun with that. Maybe you won't like it. I don't know why. Maybe I don't expect a lot of people will, but it's worth a look if you're curious. Even it's kind of like living in a movie, like the Viking movie that goes on for hours and hours and hours. And check out the woodworking stuff. And you can send me messages on Twitter. I mean, like, I'm not ignoring Twitter. I do like turn it on and just to see if I get notifications every once in a while. So it's like, it's not gone away, but that's one way to get in touch. Other than that, though, stay tuned for more. We got more coming, more guests, more scars to talk about, more candle holders to make and sell. The Etsy shop will be launching in a week or two. And I welcome your attention and your support and everything else. And I hope you guys are all doing well and taking care of yourselves. We will see you next time. Goodbye. Bye. Bye. Bye.